What foods fueled Martin Luther King during the Civil Rights era? These dishes kept activists strong and spirits high through long marches and late-night plans. What flavors of that fight are still waiting to be remembered? Smothered pork chops filled kitchens with the deep aroma of onions and slow-cooked meat, a scent that promised comfort and community after long days of organizing and marching. Thick pork chops were first seasoned and lightly browned in a heavy skillet, then simmered beneath a blanket of sliced onions and homemade broth until tender enough to cut with a fork. The onion gravy thickened as it cooked, blending with the natural juices of the meat to create a rich sauce that soaked perfectly into warm rice or cornbread. Families gathered after evening church meetings to share this dish, drawing strength from both its hearty flavor and the fellowship it encouraged. Activists who traveled from town to town during the Civil Rights era often found this meal waiting in church basements where volunteers cooked with love and quiet determination. Smothered pork chops stand as a reminder that food nourished not just the body but the spirit of a movement that demanded endurance and unity in every step forward toward justice and freedom. Collard greens with ham hocks carried the flavor of resilience and the slow patience of Southern cooking, qualities that mirrored the steady resolve of the civil rights struggle. Fresh collard leaves were washed carefully and simmered for hours with smoked ham hocks, onions, and a touch of vinegar until the greens softened into a tender, savory stew. The smoky pork enriched the broth known as Potlikker, a nutrient-rich liquid that families sipped or soaked up with cornbread to capture every drop of nourishment. These greens were served at community gatherings and late-night planning sessions, where activists and neighbors shared meals that strengthened both body and resolve. Children learned early that the long, simmering pot represented tradition and hope, carrying the taste of generations who endured hardship with grace. Collard greens with ham hocks remain a living symbol of perseverance and the belief that simple ingredients, when treated with care, can provide powerful comfort and lasting connection during times of great challenge and change. Sweet potato pie brought warmth and generosity to fellowship halls where leaders and neighbors met to plan the next march or boycott. Southern grandmothers whipped roasted sweet potatoes with sugar, butter, eggs, and warm spices, pouring the velvety mixture into flaky crusts that filled the air with cinnamon and nutmeg. The pies baked to a golden top that cracked slightly when sliced, releasing a fragrance that felt like home even in borrowed church kitchens. Serving this dessert at mass meetings was more than hospitality. It was a declaration of welcome and unity, an invitation to sit together in peace before stepping back into struggle. Sweet potato pie reminded everyone that joy and sweetness still belong to the community, even in the face of injustice. Activists left those gatherings fortified not only by plans for action, but also by the loving care baked into every slice. This pie remains an enduring emblem of Black Southern warmth, a taste of steadfast hope served on plates of flaky crust and shared resolve. Cornbread skillet bread offered quick, hearty sustenance for large groups working late into the night on strategies for marches and voter drives. Cornmeal, buttermilk, eggs, and a touch of lard came together in a single bowl before being poured into a well-seasoned cast-iron skillet. As it baked, the bread developed a crisp golden crust while staying tender and moist inside, filling the room with a rich, toasty scent. Volunteers sliced generous wedges to accompany greens, beans, or simple soups, making sure every visitor had a warm piece in hand. The speed of preparation allowed cooks to keep up with the constant flow of people arriving for meetings, while the humble ingredients reflected both thrift and tradition. Cornbread skillet bread became a familiar presence at church basements and community centers, where its sturdy flavor and easy sharing reinforced the sense of unity and shared purpose that defined the Civil Rights era. Every bite carried both nourishment and the quiet power of hospitality, offered freely to all who came. Fried catfish brought a festive spirit to fundraisers and church picnics across the Deep South, drawing crowds who came for fellowship as well as for the crisp, golden fish. Freshly caught catfish fillets were dredged in seasoned cornmeal and quickly fried in bubbling oil until the crust turned crunchy and the flesh remained tender and flaky. Volunteers cooked outdoors in large iron pots, their laughter mingling with the sound of sizzling oil and the distant hum of gospel songs. Serving plates of fried catfish helped raise money for bus trips to marches and for families supporting activists away from home. Children waited eagerly for their share, enjoying the mild, sweet flavor brightened with a squeeze of lemon. The dish represented abundance drawn from local rivers and the generosity of neighbors who gave their time and skill to the cause. Hoppin John carried a message of hope and tradition into the civil rights era, linking contemporary struggle with centuries of African American heritage. Black-eyed peas simmered with onions, rice, and smoky bacon or ham created a dish long associated with good fortune and the promise of prosperity in the year ahead. Activists and church members prepared large pots for New Year gatherings, believing that eating Hoppin John would invite blessings for the work to come. The savory aroma and hearty texture comforted those who faced uncertain days and reminded them of ancestors who persevered through hardship. Families passed down recipes that varied from household to household, but always carried the same wish for luck and strength. Serving Hoppin John at planning meetings or holiday celebrations tied the ongoing movement to a deeper history of resilience and faith. Each spoonful represented both nourishment and a quiet prayer that justice and equality would take firmer root in the seasons that followed. Okra and tomatoes turned humble garden produce into a fragrant stew that spoke of summer abundance and frugal ingenuity. Fresh okra pods sliced into tender rounds were simmered with ripe tomatoes, onions, and a pinch of garlic until the vegetables melted into a thick, flavorful sauce. The natural juices created a silky texture that clung to spoon or cornbread with equal ease. Church volunteers served this dish at evening gatherings where activists gathered after long days of organizing, providing a light yet sustaining meal that celebrated the gifts of local gardens. Children who helped harvest the vegetables recognized the flavors of their own backyard plots and felt pride in seeing their work on the table. Okra and tomatoes reflected a tradition of using what the land provided, turning everyday ingredients into something memorable. In the civil rights era, it offered comfort and a sense of continuity, proving that simple food could carry the rich taste of community and the enduring spirit of those fighting for change. Buttermilk biscuits brought flaky, tender warmth to countless mornings when organizers prepared for marches or long trips to rallies across the South. Grandmothers and church cooks cut cold butter into flour and baking powder, folding the dough gently to create delicate layers that rose high in the oven. The biscuits emerged golden and fragrant, ready to be split and filled with country ham, drizzled with honey, or enjoyed plain with strong coffee. Their quick baking time made them perfect for feeding groups of volunteers before dawn departures, while their simple ingredients kept costs low. Children loved them with homemade jam, and adults relied on their steady comfort when days promised uncertainty and challenge. Buttermilk biscuits symbolized hospitality and steadfastness, offering a taste of home to those traveling for justice. Each warm bite reminded everyone that strength begins with nourishment, and that even the smallest gesture of care can sustain courage in the face of adversity. These biscuits remain a lasting emblem of Southern generosity and the quiet power of shared food. Grits with butter and cheese served as a sustaining breakfast for activists and travelers heading out before sunrise to meetings, protests, or voter registration drives. Stone-ground corn simmered slowly in salted water until it thickened to a creamy consistency, then was enriched with a generous pat of butter and a handful of sharp cheese. The warm, hearty dish provided energy for long hours of work and carried the unmistakable flavor of Southern tradition. Church kitchens often kept large pots ready, ladling portions into bowls for anyone in need of a quick yet filling meal. The gentle comfort of grits soothed nerves and stomachs alike, offering a steady start to days filled with both hope and tension. Children and adults found reassurance in its familiar taste, a link to home even when traveling far from family. Grits with butter and cheese stands as a simple but powerful reminder that the movement for civil rights was nourished by the steadfast hands of those who cooked with love and quiet determination. Fried green tomatoes offered a bright tang and a satisfying crunch that made them a favorite in roadside cafes and family kitchens throughout the South. Firm, unripe tomatoes were sliced thick, dredged in seasoned cornmeal, and pan-fried in sizzling oil until their edges turned golden and crisp. The tart bite of the green tomato softened as it cooked, blending with the savory coating to create a flavor both lively and comforting. Volunteers and travelers found this dish at small cafes along the routes between rallies and marches, a welcome stop for a quick and memorable meal. Grandmothers served them at home as well, often with a dollop of creamy dressing or a sprinkle of fresh herbs from the garden. Fried green tomatoes became more than a snack. They represented the creativity of Southern cooks who turned an early harvest into something special. Their cheerful crunch and bright flavor brought energy and a sense of place to gatherings that fueled the civil rights movement and reminded everyone of the resourceful kitchens that kept spirits high. Peach cobbler carried the sweetness of Georgia orchards and the comfort of a dessert tied to Martin Luther King's Atlanta roots. Juicy peaches were sliced and simmered with sugar and a hint of cinnamon before being blanketed with biscuit dough or a buttery crust that baked to golden perfection. The bubbling fruit filled kitchens with a fragrant steam that signaled a treat for every sense. Served warm with fresh cream or a scoop of homemade ice cream, peach cobbler offered hospitality and pride in local harvests. Church gatherings and planning meetings often ended with generous servings of this beloved dessert, bringing smiles and a taste of home to activists far from their own families. The dish celebrated the abundance of the South while reinforcing the bonds of community and the sweetness of shared effort. Peach cobbler remains a timeless emblem of Georgia comfort, reminding everyone that the fight for justice was sustained by flavors that spoke of family, tradition, and enduring hope. Pecan pie brought rich sweetness and a satisfying crunch to church fundraisers and family tables where neighbors gathered after long days of organizing. Fresh pecans, abundant in southern groves, were stirred into a filling of eggs, sugar, and dark syrup, then baked in a flaky crust until the top formed a glossy, caramelized layer. Each slice delivered the warm flavor of toasted nuts balanced by deep, buttery sweetness. Volunteers baked dozens of these pies for community events, knowing the familiar treat would draw crowds and lift spirits. The aroma of pecan and brown sugar wafted through fellowship halls, signaling comfort and generosity. Children learned to crack the stubborn shells, sharing in the work that made each pie possible. Pecan pie stood as a reminder that even in challenging times, families and friends found joy in simple pleasures. Its enduring popularity during the civil rights era reflected the strength of tradition and the unspoken understanding that sweetness and solidarity often arrived hand in hand. Red beans and rice traveled from Louisiana kitchens to countless gatherings across the South, bringing a taste of Creole heritage to the tables of activists and supporters. Dried red beans were simmered slowly with onions, celery, bell peppers, and smoked sausage until the beans turned creamy and full of smoky flavor. Served over fluffy white rice, the dish offered hearty nourishment that stretched easily to feed large groups. Volunteers preparing for marches appreciated how the recipe used inexpensive pantry staples while delivering deep, satisfying taste. The scent of slow-cooked spices filled community centers and church basements, reminding everyone of New Orleans' roots and the blending of cultures that defined Southern food. Red beans and rice provided steady energy for long days of planning and protest, proving that simple ingredients combined with patient cooking could sustain both body and resolve. Each spoonful carried a story of resilience and unity that resonated perfectly with the goals of the civil rights movement. Mustard greens with smoked turkey gave a lighter twist to a traditional Southern staple while keeping every bit of soulful flavor. Fresh mustard greens were cleaned and chopped, then simmered gently with smoked turkey wings that added a deep, savory richness without the heaviness of pork. The greens softened into a tender dish with a gentle peppery bite, their Potlikker broth prized for its vitamins and satisfying taste. Cooks in church kitchens prepared big pots of these greens for late-night meetings where activists planned strategies and shared news. The dish reflected both health consciousness and the creativity of cooks who adapted old recipes to changing times without losing tradition. Served with cornbread for dipping, it brought warmth and nourishment to those who faced long days and uncertain roads. Mustard greens with smoked turkey remain a symbol of balance and perseverance, a meal that proves comfort food can evolve while still honoring the heritage and strength of the communities that created it. Homemade Brunswick stew was a true community affair, often prepared outdoors in enormous iron pots that simmered for hours as neighbors gathered around the fire. The stew combined a variety of meats such as chicken, rabbit, or pork with tomatoes, corn, and lima beans, creating a rich, thick blend that could feed a crowd. Volunteers took turns stirring the heavy pot, the smoky aroma drawing people from blocks away to share in both the work and the reward. This hearty dish was perfect for fundraising events and celebration dinners following successful rallies or voter drives. Children watched eagerly as the stew thickened, knowing they would soon receive generous bowls of the flavorful mixture. Brunswick stew symbolized unity and cooperation, requiring many hands and patient attention to reach its full potential. During the civil rights era, it nourished both the bodies and spirits of those working for change, reminding everyone that progress often grows from shared labor and the comforting warmth of food cooked together in fellowship. Macaroni and cheese baked Southern style turned a simple pasta dish into a rich, crowd-pleasing comfort food that became a star at Sunday dinners and church gatherings. Elbow macaroni was boiled just until tender, then layered with sharp cheddar cheese, butter, and a creamy milk sauce before baking in a hot oven until the top bubbled and browned. The result was a casserole with a crisp crust and a gooey interior that drew children and adults alike. Volunteers preparing meals for activists found it perfect for feeding large groups, as it could be made ahead and served easily from big pans. The familiar flavor and golden color lifted spirits at planning meetings and post-March celebrations. Macaroni and cheese offered a taste of indulgence during difficult days, proving that comfort food has the power to unite and sustain. Its enduring popularity reflects the way Southern cooks elevated everyday ingredients into something special, making each gathering a little brighter and every plate a reminder of home. Country fried steak with cream gravy provided hearty satisfaction at community cafeterias and gatherings where activists and neighbors met to share meals and stories. Thin cuts of beef were pounded for tenderness, dredged in seasoned flour, and pan-fried until crisp and golden. A quick gravy made from the flavorful pan drippings and fresh milk was poured generously over the steak, turning an inexpensive cut of meat into a feast. The comforting combination of crunchy coating and creamy sauce made this dish a dependable favorite for feeding hardworking families and traveling organizers alike. Its affordability and rich taste reflected the creativity of Southern cooks who transformed simple ingredients into something truly satisfying. Country fried steak with cream gravy remains a beloved memory of gatherings where conversation and courage flowed as freely as the warm gravy that blanketed every plate, proving that good food can both comfort and inspire in equal measure. Candied yams brought a caramelized sweetness to church suppers and holiday celebrations during the height of the civil rights movement. Thick slices of sweet potato were baked slowly with butter, brown sugar, and a hint of cinnamon until the edges softened and the syrup thickened into a glossy glaze. The rich aroma filled the room, signaling a dish that offered both nourishment and a sense of occasion. Volunteers often prepared large pans of candied yams for fundraising dinners, knowing the familiar taste would bring smiles and full plates. Children loved the dessert-like flavor, while adults appreciated the simple ingredients and the way the dish honored traditional Southern cooking. Candied yams provided warmth and comfort, reminding everyone that sweetness could be found even in challenging times. Each serving reflected the love and perseverance of the community, a quiet assurance that joy and strength could coexist at every shared table. Field pea salad celebrated the bright flavors of summer gardens and the Southern tradition of using what was fresh and abundant. Tender field peas were cooked until just soft and then tossed with chopped tomatoes, green onions, and a light dressing of vinegar and oil. Served chilled, the salad offered a refreshing contrast to heavier dishes at picnics and mass meetings. Volunteers appreciated how easily it could be made in large quantities and transported to outdoor gatherings. The earthy peas and crisp vegetables brought color and texture to buffet tables, while the tangy dressing added a lively kick. Field pea salad showcased the creativity of cooks who valued both flavor and frugality, turning a humble crop into a dish that delighted everyone who tasted it. During the Civil Rights era, it stood as a simple but meaningful reminder of the land's abundance and the communal effort that transformed garden harvests into meals of fellowship and quiet celebration of progress and shared purpose. Pound cake carried a quiet elegance into late-night meetings and home visits where strategy and fellowship intertwined. Grandmothers creamed butter and sugar until pale and fluffy, then folded in eggs and flour to create a batter that baked into a dense, moist loaf with a golden crust. The simple recipe required no frosting or fancy decoration, allowing the pure flavor of butter and vanilla to shine. Slices were served plain or with fresh fruit, offering a dependable sweetness that comforted weary activists after long days of organizing. Its long shelf life made it ideal for travel, and a wrapped loaf often accompanied visitors moving between towns to support the movement. Pound cake represented stability and hospitality, reminding everyone that even in times of tension, the familiar taste of home remained constant. The rich aroma filled kitchens and church basements, providing a sense of calm and continuity. Pound cake stood as a testament to resilience, its straightforward ingredients reflecting the enduring strength of the community it nourished. Chicken and rice pilaf. Southern style brought hearty nourishment to large gatherings where resources had to stretch without sacrificing flavor. Whole chickens were simmered with onions, celery, and bay leaves until tender, then shredded into a pot of seasoned rice that absorbed the rich broth. A touch of butter and a sprinkle of fresh herbs added a comforting aroma that welcomed volunteers and families alike. This economical one-pot meal allowed church cooks to feed dozens with ingredients that were inexpensive and easy to obtain. The soft grains of rice mingled with tender chicken pieces, creating a dish that filled stomachs and lifted spirits. Activists relied on meals like this when days were long and plans extended well into the evening. Chicken and rice pilaf reflected the resourcefulness of Southern kitchens, where thrift and generosity worked side by side, transforming modest staples into something both sustaining and delicious. It remains a flavorful reminder of communal care during a period when every shared meal strengthened bonds of purpose and hope. Turnip greens with cornmeal dumplings combined hearty greens and tender dumplings in a dish that linked Depression-era resourcefulness to the gatherings of the 1950s and 1960s. Fresh turnip greens simmered slowly with smoked seasoning meat until the leaves softened and the broth turned rich and savory. Simple cornmeal dumplings were dropped into the bubbling pot, where they cooked gently and absorbed the smoky flavor. This satisfying blend of vegetables and grain provided both nourishment and a connection to an earlier generation that had weathered hardship with creativity. Church cooks prepared large kettles of this dish to serve activists and families after long meetings, offering a taste of home and a reminder of endurance. The earthy aroma filled fellowship halls, while the tender dumplings made each spoonful comforting and filling. Turnip greens with cornmeal dumplings remain a symbol of resilience and tradition, proving that the wisdom of past struggles could feed the spirit of those fighting for justice and equality in a new era. Barbecued chicken with molasses glaze brought smoky sweetness to rallies and church fundraisers where music, speeches, and fellowship filled the air. Whole chickens were marinated with spices, slow-grilled over hickory coals, and brushed repeatedly with a dark molasses glaze that caramelized into a sticky, flavorful crust. The scent of wood smoke and sweet sauce drifted across parking lots and open fields, drawing crowds eager for both food and conversation. Volunteers tended the grills for hours, turning each piece until perfectly charred and tender. Funds raised from these feasts often supported travel expenses for marches or helped families whose loved ones were jailed for their activism. The rich taste and communal preparation turned every event into a celebration of unity and purpose. Barbecued chicken with molasses glaze remains a lasting image of the civil rights era, where shared meals strengthened friendships and gave energy to those determined to stand together in the fight for equality and justice across the South. Potlikker soup honored frugality and flavor by transforming the nutrient-rich broth left from cooking greens into a beloved dish all its own. After collard, mustard, or turnip greens were simmered with smoked meat, the savory liquid, known as potlikker, was saved and served with cornbread or rice. This deeply seasoned broth carried the essence of the greens and the smoky depth of ham or turkey, creating a warming meal from what others might discard. Church kitchens ladled steaming bowls of potlikker to activists who needed nourishment after long days of marches and meetings. Children learned to appreciate its rich flavor, often crumbling cornbread directly into their bowls to soak up every drop. Potlikker soup reflected a culture of respect for every ingredient and the creative spirit of cooks who refused to waste a single bit of nourishment. It became a symbol of resilience and resourcefulness, offering comfort and strength while underscoring the lesson that nothing should be overlooked when caring for a community striving for change. Homemade peach ice cream turned hot summer gatherings into celebrations of refreshment and fellowship. Fresh peaches were peeled and mashed, their fragrant juices mixed with cream, sugar, and a hint of vanilla before being churned slowly with hand cranks packed in ice and salt. Children took turns turning the handle, laughing as the mixture thickened into a cool, velvety treat. The sweet scent of peaches filled the air, offering relief from the heat and a taste of Georgia's finest harvest. Church picnics and fundraisers featured large tubs of this ice cream, ensuring every volunteer and guest left with a smile. The dessert represented abundance and teamwork, as neighbors shared fruit from their orchards and worked together to keep the churn turning. Homemade peach ice cream remains a cherished memory of warm evenings when the struggle for justice paused for a moment of pure delight, reminding everyone that simple pleasures could strengthen spirits and bring joy even during the most challenging times. Chicken and dumplings provided deep comfort to weary organizers returning from marches and long meetings. A whole chicken simmered with onions and celery created a rich broth, while soft strips of dough were dropped in to cook until pillowy and tender. The hearty soup filled fellowship halls with a soothing aroma that calmed tired bodies and restless minds. Volunteers served generous bowls to activists who needed warmth and strength to face the next day. The simple ingredients made it easy to prepare in large quantities, and the dish carried a sense of family tradition that reminded everyone of home. Chicken and dumplings demonstrated how care and patience could transform humble staples into a meal that restored both energy and spirit. Each steaming bowl offered reassurance that community support was always present, reinforcing the bonds of friendship and purpose that fueled the civil rights movement through every challenge and every victory along the long road toward justice and equality for all. Fried okra delivered a crisp bite of Southern summer in every golden piece, making it a favorite at meeting halls and church suppers. Fresh okra pods were sliced into thin rounds, dusted with seasoned cornmeal, and fried quickly until the edges curled and turned crunchy. The natural flavor of the vegetable shone through the light coating, offering a pleasant mix of earthiness and sweetness. Activists gathered around platters of fried okra while discussing plans late into the evening, the simple snack keeping spirits high. Children enjoyed sneaking hot pieces from the pan as soon as they cooled enough to touch, while adults savored the taste of backyard gardens brought indoors. Easy to prepare and quick to cook, fried okra embodied the efficiency and hospitality of Southern kitchens. It remains a beloved reminder that even the smallest harvest could become something memorable, feeding the body and the heart of a movement built on perseverance and the shared joy of good, honest food. Molasses glazed ham served as a centerpiece for Sunday dinners and holiday gatherings where activists, families, and neighbors found both nourishment and celebration. A whole ham was baked slowly, basted again and again with a glaze of molasses, brown sugar, and mustard until the surface developed a deep mahogany sheen. The sweet aroma filled the home, signaling a meal prepared with care and intention. Sliced thin for sandwiches or thick for plates, the ham satisfied large crowds and symbolized abundance during times when resources were often stretched thin. Church suppers and fundraisers featured this dish as a sign of welcome and festivity, bringing people together around a table rich with both flavor and fellowship. Molasses glazed ham stands as a memory of unity, proof that shared meals could strengthen resolve and create moments of joy, even in the midst of struggle. Its enduring presence on Southern tables speaks to the lasting power of tradition and the love that sustained the fight for equality. Sweet tea with lemon refreshed volunteers and leaders at every gathering, from hot summer rallies to late-night planning sessions. Strong black tea was brewed and sweetened while still warm, then poured over ice with bright slices of fresh lemon that added a gentle tang. The cold, sweet drink cooled parched throats and lifted spirits under the southern sun, offering a simple pleasure that everyone could share. Volunteers filled large glass pitchers for church basements and outdoor events, ensuring a steady supply for crowds both small and large. Sweet tea with lemon became more than a beverage. It symbolized welcome and hospitality, a gesture of care that transcended differences and brought people together. Activists paused for a glass before returning to work, finding a brief moment of comfort in its familiar flavor. The drink remains an iconic taste of the South, a reminder that even the simplest refreshment can unite communities and provide the calm strength needed to continue the long march toward justice. Tell us which civil rights era dish you would cook first. Drop a comment, like the video, and subscribe to keep these powerful flavors and stories alive.